Hey everyone, really excited for today's session and for today's learning lab. Just a quick intro to me and then we'll get on with the session. So my name's Bradley, I'm a Senior Client Director at Quantum and I'm a shopper lead within the agency. So really my role is all around delivering brilliant shopper-based work streams for both our global clients but also our local markets as well. Today, I want to be giving you 5 really tactical solution-based ideas that you can take to brand planning or any collaboration meetings that you might have internally so you feel fully equipped to deliver brilliant retail activations. So the name of this learning lab is about don't just survive retail, you really need to dominate it. So in today's hyper-competitive retail landscape, merely just showing up and having shelf space isn't enough. While some scramble for small wins in retail, forward-thinking brands are completely reimagining their conversion strategies to make a real impact in store. I think that's really important to remember. It's about how can you strategically drive conversion and go one better or 2 better than your competitors. So today, I want you to leave this learning lab with 5 approaches of how top-performing brands transform their rate of sales strategies from boardroom concern to competitive advantage to really drive conversion. The 5 areas which I'll be chatting through are the adaptive journey and what that looks like as we reimagine the consumer journey, target occasion versus target market, so really thinking about how you look at consumers, the power of the call to action, so how can you take messaging and really use a powerful tone of voice to drive your conversion strategies, unexpected collaborations, and lastly, unmissable in-store activations and experiences. First, looking at the adaptive journey, and this is really reimagining your consumer journey. Something still really important to look at is how your consumer navigates in store, but I think using the phrase consumer journey can feel a bit outdated. The adaptive journey is all about looking at your new product or potentially your existing product that you are creating a new activation for in store, but really focusing in on that specific product versus a consumer journey can sometimes be a bit of a rinse and repeat. So you can take a previous consumer journey from either a similar product or the same product and it can feel outdated. I think what the adaptive journey is going to do for you is really help you drive conversion because you're really looking at it with a new lens every single time versus just using the same consumer journey that you might have done for previous activations. So you can see on this slide here some of our examples, just to highlight some key areas where we've seen this actually live in store. And I will read this stat out for you because I think it's really important, and there's a few stats within this learning lab, just hopefully that gives a bit of validity of what I'm talking about. So 87% of retailers report that integrating digital personalisation into the shopper journey or adaptive journey increases sales and marketing ROI, so return on investment. And I think this doesn't have to live and breathe digitally, but as we obviously are in a digital world, digital personalisation can play a really vital role into the adaptive journey. And you can see on the screen here, there's a few different examples. So self-scanners are a great touch point for you to use in your adaptive journey. Places like Tesco or other retailers use these, and based on your previous shopping history, can promote and push certain brands or products to you, which just makes the experience feel a lot more personalised, which will then strategically help you drive conversion. You can see the Hot Wheels example here with a QR code, so scan now to start your mission. This just feels really personal and makes you as a shopper want to find out more. So placing items like this or touch points like this in your adaptive journey, so it just makes the shopper feel that you are targeting towards them versus just being kind of a blanket rollout of point of sale or different touch points in store. One really exciting example that you can see kind of in the centre here, something really exciting from a tech and digital perspective is the GS1 digital link barcodes in store. This is a really smart new mechanic that retailers and brands can kind of use moving forward. So it's a dynamic QR code where consumers simply point their smartphone in store. There's no apps needed, so there's no barriers from that point of view. And then the shopper is presented with a web page containing all the information they need about the product. So this could be recipe ideas, ingredients, allergens. So something really exciting that you can have a think about when planning out your adaptive journey. Again, this just feels really personal to the shopper and cuts through any barriers from a purchase point of view, because they can find out exactly what they need to find out about your product. So to summarise that, some takeaway points from the adaptive journey just to put front of mind. So ditch the cookie cutter approach. Every retail activation should be tailored. No rinse and repeat. The consumer can spot it a mile off, especially if they're shopping for your product time and time again, which hopefully they will be doing. Pinpoint key touch points and strategically map them where they'll have the most impact, and collaborate with your customers and retailers to bring this to life. Personalise content at every stage where you can, and use in-store media like shelf scanners, ads to reinforce your message. So think beyond just the average point of sale. Look at what different devices and different touch points you can use. Use AI to enhance the in-store journey. Think QR codes at point of sale that trigger chatbots to answer real-time questions at shelf. This is a really exciting new development that you can use in your adaptive journey, or just generally in your plan to drive conversion. Again, this just makes the shopper feel that they're really bought into your product and in your brand, because the chatbots are answering real-life questions for you. So overall, this approach will boost your conversion and builds long-term brand love through deeper and personal connections, which ultimately is what we really want to go after. So the next point of discussion is target occasion versus target market. So consumers are constant. Moments and occasions really drive action, and that action is what ultimately is going to lead to conversion. So again, some really exciting examples to talk you through, but initially again, just a stat to highlight the importance of an occasion to really drive conversion in store. So 88% of customers consider a consumer experience to be as important as its products. And to deliver that consumer experience, we have identified that target occasion can really elevate the experience in store. So you can see here, Fanta and Halloween are really synonymous now with that occasion, and they create some really disruptive point of sale in store to really dial up that occasion and to really have dominance in store versus any competitors. You can see a Philadelphia Easter example there in the bottom left. So some really playful use of their product and how they're able to dial into that occasion to hopefully drive conversion. Another great example of a brand that really harnesses occasion is Monkey Shoulder, and they do that through demand spacing, and their demand space is house party. And the way they translate that, so consumers really kind of understand that demand space, is with really disruptive point of sale, and you can kind of see here with the use of speakers and disco balls to really give that high tempo look and feel. So your consumer, if they're looking for Monkey Shoulder or a whiskey for a house party or for their house party, kind of Monkey Shoulder hopefully will be the brand that they turn to. And then some examples here from PepsiCo, Heineken and Walkers and Doritos, so kind of a collaboration of different brands and a really disruptive display of how they're trying to go after sport. Now for various different markets, sport throughout the year, throughout the calendar year is really important, and you can kind of pinpoint pinnacle moments in the year. Whether that be football or tennis, you can really pinpoint what occasion from a sporting point of view would be right for you. But you can see here how you can create something which feels really dynamic, really disruptive, using sport as the lead occasion. Just a few takeaways for target occasion versus target market. So, as I mentioned, consumers aren't constant. Moments and occasions can really hopefully drive action for you and drive conversion. People behave differently based on mood and context. Target occasions in your conversion strategy, not just demographics. Own a key moment in the year. So you don't want to own every single occasion, it'll feel kind of diluted. Really own something that you feel like you can go after, and align your campaign tightly to it to drive conversion and to really have purpose in store. Know your consumers' triggers and barriers, and use the right occasion to break through and boost creative appeal. So with the example of Monkey Shoulder, what is their triggers, what are their barriers? And then how are they using that demand space of House Party to break through and really boost creative appeal of their liquid? So hopefully this tactic, using occasion-based targeting and or demand sensing, will outsmart traditional market segmentation and grow both salience and sales to drive conversion. The third tactic or solution is the power of the call to action and messaging. I think messaging should never be overlooked. Obviously you want a really dynamic, disruptive visual appeal in store, but your messaging can really cut through in a lot of different noise visually in store. Using specific, clear call to action can increase conversion rates by 161% in a retail space. That is a huge percentage and something that should not be overlooked. And you can see some great examples again on this slide. So the top one is the Nivea, so give the gift of time with Nivea. So if you think of Nivea, they've really tailored this message and this call to action around their product. Obviously Nivea is all around anti-aging and the products for that. So having a call to action which really feels specific to the product feels really powerful and really pertinent. So the example on the bottom left, with Schweppes, give your get-together the fizz factor. So again, this really feels like it's aligned to Schweppes as the brand. Still feels like a really great call to action and really direct to the consumer, but it feels intrinsically aligned to Schweppes, which I think is really important and makes it really strong. Another example which I think works really well is the Inches Cloudy Cider, being the main call to action, so try the really good cloudy cider. I think this really works because it feels really colloquial. It's still very direct, using the word try as your really key word to drive that call to action. But really good cloudy cider just feels like something you would say to your friend, so it doesn't feel intimidating for you as a shopper, which I think works really well. The Oatly example, again, feels really strong to me from a messaging and call to action point of view. Hey Choice Maker feels really direct, really clear to the shopper, feels really friendly, approachable, but again, as I've mentioned, like really direct. Another really great example is the Ecover FSDE design. The call to action and the messaging I think is really strong, so packed with cleaning power feels really direct to the shopper. And then on the aisle fin are some really key stats about the product itself and the benefits to the consumer. So something really great to build into your messaging or into your call to action is anything or reasons to believe for your consumer. This will only kind of increase their trust in your product, which will in turn drive conversion. And then finally, the Nature Valley and Fibre One example feels really emotive, so treat yourself feels really emotive to appeal to the shopper and the consumer, and then get equipped for life. Again, they both just really play into both brands' tone of voice and the product itself, which again should hopefully, as you as a shopper, make you want to purchase over competitors. So some takeaways for kind of the power of the call to action. So keep messaging clear, bold, and on brand. Cut through the noise without losing your unique tone of voice. That's really important. You want to be bold, you want to cut through the noise, but don't lose your unique tone of voice, because that's what's going to make you versus anyone else. Adapt your messaging and call to action to guide the shopper, and make the journey seamless and your product unmissable. So you can really flex your message depending on where you are in that journey for the shopper. And you can use frameworks like the capture, connect, commit model. And this is really about flexing your messaging call to action to drive conversion at every step of that journey. You can sync in-store signage with your wider marketing. So this is all about creating a true omni-channel experience. Obviously today we've highlighted some retail examples, but that messaging should be seamless with some slight adapts, but should be seamless across all the different touch points, whether that be out of home or digitally on social. Like, really create a suite of messaging call to actions which are going to resonate with your consumer on every step of that consumer journey. And finally, is your tone of voice really aligned with your audience and the occasion? If not, it's now definitely time to ideate and tailor your messaging to make sure that your messaging isn't going to hold anyone back from choosing your brand or product. So the next topic to talk through is unexpected collaborations. And collaborations can be really exciting in retail. It can really spark up curiosity or joy with the shopper. And 71% of consumers enjoy co-branding and partnerships. Again, that's a really strong percentage of what consumers are looking for in store. A really exciting example from a few different brands actually. So from Fanta, Cadbury's, Maynard's is Beetlejuice. So really disruptive character and film franchise that you can see translated really well into store. They've used the dynamic use of stripes, which really resonates with Beetlejuice, and how they've used their product to really make sure that the collaboration feels really authentic and meaningful and doesn't feel kind of disorientated or mismatched with the brands themselves. More examples here, so one from Oreo and Coca-Cola. Again, you can see that their use of brand wells just really harmonise really well together, and they really feel like a smart pairing and translate really well into store. Another really exciting collaboration which we saw was Pepsi and Peeps. I think this collaboration in particular was really exciting to see because there was some scarcity around finding the product, their limited edition and limited release. So this collaboration really drives that immediacy with your consumers. And if you can do that as part of your campaign, that can really help drive conversion because your consumer understands that they're only available for a limited amount of time. So it really, as I mentioned, it really kind of drives that immediacy and drives purchase. So a few takeaways for collaborations. So do the brands share the same values and similar target consumers? Will the collaboration feel authentic and spark excitement? I think the consumer now more than ever can really kind of recognise when something doesn't feel authentic and they're going to be switched off and turned off. So it needs to feel authentic and it needs to spark that excitement in store. What's the unique value this partnership brings? Will it drive conversion ultimately, or just blend into shelf and become wallpaper? Ultimately, yes, it needs to be exciting, it needs to look cool, but is it just going to be wallpaper in store, or is it really going to do the hard-hitting tactic of driving conversion? And ultimately, how will you measure success? So I think for this, it's really important, as this is most likely going to be kind of a limited edition or something which isn't on shelf all the time. So tracking sales before, during and after can really help you measure the impact and the ROI from collaboration, and it can help you tailor things moving forward and help you take really great learnings for any future collaborations that you might do in store. And finally, to round off today's Learning Lab is all around unmissable in-store activations and experiences. So this isn't new news, but I think a really nice one to finish off on, because I think now more than ever, creating really exciting, really disruptive experiences or activations in store is going to help you drive conversion. All brands are trying to go above and beyond what they've done in previous years and what competitors are doing. So this is really about looking about what your competitors are doing, but what other categories are doing, to really make sure that you are creating the best activations in store and in retail. And it only takes a tenth of a second for individuals and consumers to form an opinion, so you really need to stop them in their tracks, otherwise they'll be moving on to the next best thing. Some examples that you can see here, which I think really work really well, are the Heineken and Peroni examples. So how have they really translated their brand world into store, and how they use really dynamic lighting and different displays to again make sure that they are attracting consumers' attention versus competitors. Unilever and Kit Kat, some more really great examples here. The Kit Kat example, you can actually see brand ambassadors in store to really kind of engage and create a really memorable experience. Unilever have turned the fridge into an ice cream truck, which again feels really exciting, really disruptive. Kit Kat have supersized their chocolate bar to again create really disruptive displays in store. Kit Kat have supersized their chocolate bars to again create a really disruptive and memorable activation in store. And they've even got Kit Kats hanging from the ceiling, so you've really got high visibility, eyeline visibility. Really think about that. Are there any opportunities for you to not only have fixtures on the shop floor, but are there opportunities to have floor vinyls or anything kind of more at a higher level? That again will really make sure that you're creating something which feels memorable to your shopper. And then finally, kind of a herbal essence, so really looking at senses, not only just what you're seeing, but also what you can smell. Again, if that's really important to your product, like a brand like Herbal Essences, having something which feels quite sensory in store can be really great to drive conversion. And then lint are really synonymous with creating beautiful displays which showcase their brand and make them kind of the go-to for various different occasions, whether that be Christmas or Easter. They really kind of understand what their shopper's looking for and translate it really effectively into store. And some final takeaways for in-store activation. So, does your activation enhance the shopper journey without distracting key priorities? Yes, you can create something which feels really disruptive, but is it going to enhance that shopper journey or just feel quite distracting? How will you create a sensory or emotional impact in store, and how will you do it quickly? There's a short window of time where your shopper and consumer is looking at your stand or at your product, so you need to make sure that it's a really quick approach, and how can you engage different senses to make that happen? Are you using real-time data to deliver a personalised experience? Does it strike the right balance between value and innovation for today's savvy shoppers? So shoppers today are really switched on. They've seen a lot of different touch points and brands before, so that balance between value and innovation in store I think is really important. And then how are you going to measure a true ROI, and what measures are you putting in place in store? That can be really tricky when it comes to in-store activations, but just a few kind of thought starters from our side of how you could potentially look at this. So, what are your objectives? What are your KPI metrics? What is your benchmark? And find proxies from other channels outside of retail to help you do this. What are your tools? So find the right tools for you and for your brand to help you collect the right data. And then finally calculate. So play with the numbers before and after, look at previous sale data and findings to hopefully calculate kind of how successful the activation was. How are you inspiring shoppers? Are you transporting them into your brand world like Peroni did really successfully? Are you building really disruptive displays? That could be through cardboard engineering or with other materials, or even with lighting to break through the supermarket glare and visual noise. And don't just look local. I think we could fall into dangerous habits when we're just visiting our local supermarkets, but look at global points of inspiration. That can be through various different outlets online. LinkedIn is a really great one to see what other kind of markets are doing. Obviously, if you go away to other countries, like make sure you visit different supermarkets and different retail stores, so you can understand what's going on in the wider sphere, and that can hopefully make you stand out and really drive conversion with your disruptive experiences and in-store activations. So there you are. There's our 5 conversion strategies to help you dominate in retail and stand out against competitors. Hopefully they're really helpful, and hopefully they give you some points of inspiration for you to take away, as I mentioned, to various different board meetings or collaboration meetings that you might have internally or with your customers and retailers. Any questions, please reach out. And I'll be more than happy to answer them either on a call or even catch up over a coffee.